My name's Nathan Outlaw, I'm a chef and I'm here in Cornwall today to cook some recipes with Sharp's Brewery and their Connoisseurs range. Today we saw Stuart Howe and he's the man who created these beers and he introduced his beers to me.
The idea of the range was to showcase the breadth of flavours and nuances that you can get from the raw materials and processes that you use in brewing. Yeah, I mean this is the kind of beer that really allows you to express yourself with food.
Well, Stuart, I think I have a few ideas, but one in particular. So I'm going to go away now and give it a go.
You're not going to tell me?
No, I'm going to leave you here with all your beers and I'll be back as soon as I can with something that I've created.
Fantastic.
Hopefully it'll go with your fabulous creations.
Good luck.
Now the challenge for me with using my expertise is to come up with a couple of dishes that will really go with them beers. Creating dishes is about flavours and getting them flavours right. And through working for 18 years as a chef, that's something that I do every day. So today what I'm going to do is create a dish using Bream and using Chicory that really will go well with this first beer, the single brew, which is one of the Connoisseurs range from Sharp's Brewery, and I think it works really well with seafood dishes. We're going to start off with that, and the basics in this dish are the oiliness of the Bream, combined with the bitterness of the chicory. We got a little bit of juniper in there as well, there's vinegar, there's butter, so it's all that combination together and will work very well with a single brew. Okay, so the first part of this dish is to make the chicory marmalade. Now the ingredients for the chicory marmalade are obviously the chicory, a fresh vegetable which you should be able to get from most supermarkets and most greengrocers. We've got shallots, which I like to use the banana shallots because they're just easier to cut up. We've got some juniper berries, which are very nice, you know, sort of aromatic, almost like a gin flavour if you're the gin. We've got some white wine vinegar. We've got some unsalted butter. There's some sugar, and then we've got some sea salt. Now that's the ingredients for the chicory marmalade. Now all we've got to do now is prepare the vegetables and then cook it. Okay, so to make the chicory marmalade, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to chop the shallots up. Now basically you're going to peel the shallot down and you just want to take off the top. So just peel off the outside using your knife. Cut the shallot in half. Carefully, you just cut along the shallot into fine slices. Keeping your hand flat so you don't cut yourself. Come through. And then what we do is dice the shallot. So that's our chopped shallot. Now we're going to take a few juniper berries. So you need to chop these juniper berries, and the best thing to do is to use the side of your knife and just push down. Be careful not to obviously cut yourself. And what that does is just crushes them so they stick to the board, and then you just need to run your knife through them like so. And once you've got them crushed down, you can go a bit faster with your knife. You want to cut them nice and fine. All we're looking for is that lovely gin flavour to be running through the chicory marmalade. Okay, so the next part of this dish, we're going to put the shallots and the juniper into a pan with the white wine vinegar. What we're after is boiling that down so there's no vinegar left at all. Okay, so while that's reducing, we're going to get on with the chicory. So chicory, basically what we've got there is a salad leaf, but it's very bitter. But that's why we were adding the sugar and the vinegars to it as well to balance it out. So it's almost like a sweet and sour. So what we do is take the root off and actually pull the leaves off the outside of the chicory. Just cut it down at the root. The reason why I do that is so that I can just pull them off easily. And you don't waste as much of the chicory either. Best thing to do is to, in freeze, just get the 3 leaves together firmly, and then using your fingers and your knife, you want to get nice long strips. We're just using its qualities of the bitterness and the structure to make ourselves a marmalade. So the shallots and the juniper, the vinegar's almost evaporated now, so we're just going to pull that off the heat while we do the chicory. Add a little bit of grapeseed oil to the pan, and what that does is stops the butter from burning. Okay, so once the oil's hot, we add a little bit of butter. Once you can see that it's starting to go brown at the edges, the butter, You just add the chicory to the pan. So the chicory's been cooking for a couple of minutes, and as you can see, it's just starting to go translucent. It's starting to collapse a little bit as well. And that's when I know it's ready for the shallots. So the shallots are ready. All the white wine vinegar has evaporated, and all we're left with is lovely juniper and shallot flavour that's going to go into there. See, what we've got in there is vinegar, bitter chicory. We've got a little bit of richness coming from the butter, but we need to add some sugar to it to balance it out. So a couple of spoonfuls of caster sugar. You can use any sugar, but caster sugar is good for this. Okay, so that's it. So it's taken about 3 or 4 minutes, and what you're looking for is that softness but still structure to the whole of the chicory. And then all we need to do now is add a touch of salt, because we have not added any salt to it yet. And then we're ready to let that cool down, and once it's cool it can go on top of the puff pastry and ready to go in the oven. Okay, so this is a wild gilt head bream, and the telltale signs for this to be fresh is nice shiny bright eyes. And when you're looking at it, look at it and make sure everything's intact, all the scales are there. We're looking for nice sharp fins, everything intact, and the gills are just under here to be bright and red. And that's all the things you're looking for. If you've got all them 4 things right, you've got a lovely perfect fish, and you should buy it. With fish cookery, the one thing that really puts people off is the fish preparation. But I'm going to show you how simple it is. And actually, it's as simple as just peeling an orange. Okay, so the first thing you need to do with this gilt head bream is to take its head off. So using a serrated knife, which I find is the best way, is to just below where the gills are and just below where this fin is here, you just need to cut across and then take the head off in one. So the next thing is to take the guts out. And this is not a difficult thing to do, it's very easy. You insert your knife at the head of the belly, and then just using your hand, you pull that out. It all comes out in one, like so. And then you're left nice and clean in the inside. Fill up a sink with water, or a big bowl, a big washing up bowl or something like that, and actually scale the fish under the water. That way you don't have scales all over your kitchen. So when you're scaling, use the blunt side of a knife, and there's no more pressure on that fish than the pressure of combing your hair, really. So as you can see, I'm scaling from the tail to the head, and that's against the actual scale. So that's the easiest way to get rid of them. And it's as simple as that. Okay, so once you've got the fish scaled, you'll need to fillet it. With a round fish, I always work on the first fillet from the tail end, which is here, to the head end. Okay, so I insert my knife just above the bone here. You need to have a real sharp knife to do this. Okay, and then you come all the way along the backbone like this, all the way to the head. As you can see, I've exposed all the way along there, and I can feel with my knife where the bone is. So all I need to do now is to work along that, like so, feeling my knife, I can feel it where the bone is. And you actually can, if you're quiet, you can hear it as well. So now that I've exposed all the backbone, the next thing is to turn your knife around, bring the fish towards you, and then start going away from yourself. And what we're going to do now is basically release the fillet from the tail. We come through, and that comes straight through like that. As you can see. The next thing, turn the fish again back to its original position, and then working at where the head would be, you come through the rib cage, like so, with a sharp knife, and then off it comes. For the second fillet, you go reverse. You start from the head to the knife again, so we run all the way along the backbone to the tail, and we do exactly the same thing as we did on the other side, is we just work down towards that centre bone, like so, and as soon as we can see that, then we basically bring the knife down, and then we come through at the tail, and then back to the top, and we go through the rib cage again, And off it comes. The next thing we need to do to these fillets is basically remove the rest of the bones. The first ones we need to remove are the rib cage bones. So turning your knife towards yourself, being careful, come along where the rib cage is, like so. Turn the knife back round again, and then follow the shape of the rib cage all the way down to the belly of the fish, and it'll come off. And then trim around, like so. Do exactly the same thing with the other fillet, and you've got 2 intact fillets. Okay, so that's what you should be looking for. 2 lovely fresh fillets, okay, and a bone that's got no meat on it at all. And all we've got to do now is remove the pin bones. The first thing we do is to start at the tail, and just where you see them where the bones are in the central line, you just come just slightly the other side of it, and in one cut you come all the way through, and now there's no bones in that at all. That's completely fish. And the same with the belly side. You hold on to the top there, and where the bones start, you just come down. Now doing that way, you do lose a little bit of the fish, but it's perfectly acceptable. The next thing is to get the chicory tart in the oven. Okay, so what I've got here is some ready rolled puff pastry, and we're just going to cut that into a square. And then using a fork, what we do is we're just going to prick the pastry all over. Okay, spread the chicory marmalade out over on the tart, right to the edges. So now we've got the chicory all even over the pastry. We need to stick that into an oven that's been preheated at 180, and that will take about 15 minutes to cook. So the next part of the recipe while the tart is cooking is the pistachio dressing. Now what I've got here is some pistachios that I've peeled. So we need some rapeseed oil, and then we need to blend them together to make a dressing. So as simple as this, you put your pistachios into the blender. So give them a whiz for 20 seconds. So what we've got now is the pistachios are ground down to a nice powder, and then we need to add some of the rapeseed oil, making sure you don't add too much. So you've got a consistency of like pesto. There you have it, simple as that. That's pistachio dressing. Okay, for the next part of the recipe, we need some pink grapefruit. Now the best way to segment a pink grapefruit is to use a flexible knife. And the reason why that is the flexible knife will go round the outside of the grapefruit. If you cut into the grapefruit with a harder knife, basically what will happen is you'll cut into the grapefruit and you'll lose some of the flesh. We want to get the most out of this grapefruit. So very simply, segment the grapefruit, take off either end, cut from the top to the bottom, coming around the grapefruit. This is natural shape. Okay, so trim off all the pith. Once you've got all the pith off the grapefruit, is to hold it in your hand nice and firm, and there's natural lines there where the segments of the grapefruits are held together, and then with your knife carefully come either side of that pith line, and the grapefruit will just pop out like that. And that's just pure grapefruit flesh. There's no pith on there at all. So what's really nice about grapefruit, and pink grapefruit in particular, when I tasted Stuart's beer, I actually got grapefruit tones in there. So for me, a good quality pink grapefruit really sort of comes through, and I think it really needs that acidic sort of touch to it. What I'm going to do is just season it with a little bit of Cornish sea salt. So the next thing we do is we're going to cook this. So when you're pan frying fish, an essential thing is to make sure that the pan is really not too hot. You don't want it too hot. If it's too hot, you'll put the oil in there, you'll get a bit of a flare up, you put the fish in there, and actually what happens is the fish just shrinks up. Especially if it's fresh, it'll just stress out. So the best thing to do is have a medium heat pan. So I'm going to add the oil to the pan. And as soon as I add the oil to the pan, I'm going to put the fish fillet in. Now you always cook a fillet of fish with the side that you want the customer to see or your friends to see when you're cooking it. So in this case, we're going to put it with the skin side down. At that point, you really want to push it down. You feel the need to. Don't, leave it. What will happen is, as it relaxes, after about a minute, it will settle back down and you'll gently cook it. And what will happen is, the skin will contact with the pan and you'll get a lovely crispy skin that you can eat. And it's just like the equivalent of pork crackling. As you can see, the actual flesh is starting to cook, and you can see that. Once that sort of that whiteness has come almost 3/4 of the way up the fish fillet, I know then that's almost cooked, and all I need to do is to flip it over before I serve it. That'll take about 4 or 5 minutes. So now I need to get the tart out of the oven. Okay, so we're going to leave the tart there to cool down for a second, and let's pay our attention back to the bream. Okay, so the fish is now at that point. I know that's going to be perfectly cooked when I flip it over. So take it off the heat, and you're ready to start plating up. Okay, so we put our tart onto the plate. We've got some of our lovely pistachio dressing. Okay, so just drizzle the pistachio dressing over the chicory tart. You want the acidity from these lovely pink grapefruits. Like so. Okay, so the fish is now ready to flip over. There's enough heat in this pan, so we'll just turn it over. Give it 30 seconds and then straight onto the plate. We'll finish it off with another great soup segment and a little bit more of the dressing. So there you have it, that's my wild gilt head bream, pan fried with a lovely chicory marmalade tart, then beautiful pistachio dressing, lovely zingy pink grapefruit, and I think that's going to go perfectly with Sharp Brewery's single brew Connoisseurs choice beer.